Third part. Sure, the hoarse voice replied magnanimously, and then it hiccuped. Are you drunk? Your face is paler than a damn moon gourd, and the Lord of Alcohol can't help you now. I'll send you to the ground with just one shot to the gut. Anyway, your voice don't match your face at all, mister. True enough. Ah, he speaks. The giant's eyes went wide, but he rolled up his sleeves. The pose he took looked like something he'd taught himself. What's with that goofy fighting stance? You really are a bumpkin, aren't you? Dee's left hand squeezed into a fist, crushing at the insult, but that didn't stem the giant's anger. Hauling back with his right hand, he bellowed, You son of a... His fist arced out, plowing through the air. Huh? He cried in astonishment after the punch that should have caught Dee right in the air met only empty space. He was about to spin completely around, but he stopped himself halfway and returned to his stance. That was actually rather remarkable. His whole body was like a spring. And the man let out another cry of surprise. By the time he'd resumed his stance, Dee was standing right in front of him. Dark eyes of impossible depth reflected the giant's ruddy face. Their depth probably frightened the man. Usually the giant would get in a few shots in rapid succession while drawing his opponent in for a hook and then a bloody blow. But he forgot all about his winning combination and just took a swing. Still, the man couldn't find a hole in his opponent's defenses, which would have been easy if he'd been up against an ordinary human. A hard slap reverberated. The man's fist had stopped in midair. Dee's left hand was wrapped around it. Cries of surprise rang out in the room. They only whipped the giant into a frenzy. Letting out an unintelligible cry, he struck to the left. Before his blow could connect, the giant was sailing through the air, easily flying over the heads of the oohing patrons. He landed at the other end of the room, right in front of a door that led to the back. The saloon quaked. Not bad at all, Lilia said, her eyes agleam. Slammed him head first, eh? He won't be... Her amused tone broke off there. Apparently he will be okay after that. Rubbing a neck as thick as a log, the giant used his other hand to lift his upper body from the floor. The way Dee had thrown him, it wouldn't have been surprising if his neck had been broken. He was like toughness in a pair of pants. Giving just one shake of his head, the giant used his hand to easily lift himself from the floor, and the bumpkin wasn't even shaking when he resumed his stance. Caught me off guard. Shouldn't underestimate you just 'cause you're a pretty boy. Okay, time for the real deal. His drunkenness must have left him completely, because his face had a look of what some might term integrity, as it twitched with murderous intent. Oh, he means business, Lilia said, a daring smile skimming across her lips. She was starting to enjoy this. The floor creaked. The giant had gone into motion. His unbelievably light footwork put looks of amazement into the eyes of the villagers, and that testified they'd never seen it before. He'd never had a need to show anyone until now. Have at you. Leaving only his words behind him, the giant glided to the right. Lilia's eyes bulged in their sockets. The deadly battle resumed. And this time it was for real. It wouldn't stop until blood had been spilled. Just then, from the door to the back room, a voice called out, That'll be all for now, Baska. We've got an urgent patient. It was a cultured female voice. Everyone turned to look, and the giant, Baska, grimaced with regret. Standing in the doorway was a middle-aged woman in a long white coat. The face framed by her graying hair was surprisingly youthful and brimming with rationality. A decade earlier, she wouldn't have been able to go anywhere without turning the head of every man. Mr. Shova's boy has a stomachache. The symptoms sound like appendicitis. Go get the wagon ready. She sounded like a boss giving orders to an employee. Baska turned and said, "Hey, Doc, hate to tell you this, but I ain't your freaking slave. No need to be talking to me like that in front of all these folks. And you can make all the bones you like about that after you've paid me back that $5,000. Just how is it that a man who's gambling drove off his wife and kids, a man who had mobsters going after him for the money he borrowed, is living safe and sound now?" That one icy blow showed just how sharp she was. Quaking from head to toe, Baska fell silent. He was like an active volcano given human form. His anger bubbled like lava. "Sooner or later, he's going to explode," Lilia said, shrugging her shoulders. "Hurry up," the woman he'd called Doc ordered, walking out into the room. The villagers in front of her cleared a path. Clucking his tongue, the indignant Baska left. Right in front of the doctor was the dwindling back of a figure in black. As Dee walked toward the batwing doors, the doctor called out to him, "Just a moment, please." Realizing he wasn't going to stop, she increased the length of her strides and went after him. "Won't you hear me out? I'm Vera. I'm the village doctor," she told him. "You have such good looks. Could it be you're the man they call Dee?" Dee pushed against the doors. A heavily wrinkled hand grabbed his shoulder. "If you are, listen to what I have to say. I was hired by the sacred ancestor to do a certain job." Dee turned around fluidly. Vera was frozen, partly due to astonishment at his speed, but the rapture on her face said the real reason was something else. Dee was right there in front of her. What was it? The dashing figure in black inquired. That alone seemed like it would suffice to make even the most tight-lipped person tell all. And no one would have blamed them. The young man was that gorgeous. "What was—" Vera began, repeating him as if suffering from some sort of dementia. At that point, they heard someone say, "Don't tell him." A split second after Dee stepped to one side, the swinging doors opened. It was one of the men the hunter had met with in the mayor's office, Director Marquis. "What are you?" Vera began, the bewilderment showing in every inch of her as she gazed at the face of the tall, thin old man. "You mustn't tell him. I came out here looking to somehow keep him from leaving, and now I found my ace in the hole." "Dee, if you want to hear what the doctor has to say, I need you to agree to go up to the mountain." Now it was Dr. Vera who was at her wit's end. "No matter how handsome you may be, that won't work on Vera. It may be 3 years since I last saw her, but that doesn't change the fact she's my daughter," the old man said boastfully, but then a hint of anxiety suddenly crept into his expression. It spread across his entire face in the blink of an eye. Taking his eyes off his daughter, The director looked at Dee. He then hurriedly tried to look away, but it was too late. In a heartbeat, both father and daughter were captives of his beauty. What was it? Dee asked once more. It was... Vera began. Something whistled through the air. It looked as if it went in through one of Dee's temples, out the other, and then ripped right through the batwing doors. Don't tell him, Lilia cried, her left hand still poised from throwing the dart as her right hand reached for the sword on her back. If he won't agree to go into the mountains, that leaves me in a bind. Because I was hired on condition of getting him to go along with me. So, that being the case, I'm in your corner. That's how it is then, Director Marquis said, shaking his head. It was like waking from a dream, or from a nightmare of unearthly beauty. How about it, Dee? We don't have to stand around here jabbering. Would you care to discuss this in the private room in the back? Lilia and Vera, you two come along, do. Sorry, but I have an urgent patient to attend to, said Vera. It'll have to wait. This is the top priority. You can't be a widow playing country doctor for the rest of your life. I'll bring you back to the capital with me. Another ace in the hole. The doctor shrugged her shoulders. Lowering her voice, she continued, I'm sick and tired of living out in the sticks, tending to a bunch of filthy farmers. Take me with you. But not right now. Glancing at the batwing door, she said, Baska's back. See you later, Dad. And with that she left, shaking her head from side to side. The old archaeologist kept his eyes diverted from the hunter as he asked, Okay, Dee, what's it going to be? Though he spoke rather triumphantly, he couldn't imagine what the future would hold. Chapter 1, End.